Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over some observations and terms associated with medieval castles, and I really enjoy these set of images. So I hope you did too, and I hope you made some good observations of it. So we're going to go through with an eye to similarities, differences, and function, as well as how the new and the old structures were combined in these, and just sort of anything we can learn about the purpose and function of medieval architecture. Okay, so let's jump into this. All right, so this first one is Dover Castle, and I really like Dover Castle because it gives an example of a lot of the things I'm talking about. And one of the things I mentioned is that you probably have an idea about what the function of medieval castles is, but Dover Castle really makes it sort of clear. These things are built primarily for defense, and you'll notice that the ground around it has kind of been shaped. So notice you probably don't have this gap occurring around the castle naturally, or around the central, we call this the keep in here, and then the keep is surrounded by walls. But you've got this sort of ditch in between those and the outer walls around it. Now, that is deliberate. Likely, before this wall was built, you piled up this earth out here and on this side of it to make sort of a what we call like an earthen barricade. Now, the term we use for that in general is just called a rampart. So when we pile up earth to form a barricade, or soil or dirt or whatever to form a barricade that invaders would have to go up and over and then down, that is called a rampart. And oftentimes you'll see a wall built on top of a rampart, and this is no exception to that. Another thing that we're going to see come into prominence is we'll have these sorts of almost like kind of like gap tooth teeth shape at the top of these different fortifications. Now that is called crenellation. Crenellation is just the process of making the top gap tooth, and basically what it is, there are gaps in between sort of the guardrail. So I'll write these down. The guardrail around the top there that kind of keeps people from falling off also serves as a defense. So if people are launching arrows, that is called the parapet. Crenellation is the process of putting gaps into the parapet. And why would you want to do that? Well, basically, so you could look out and throw your own offensive weapons, like rocks or arrows or maybe burning pitch. So that is called crenellation. And you can see all of those things here. Now, another thing to notice, all up and down here, you have some very narrow windows. Can even see some narrow windows right there. A little harder to see them. That's probably a bigger window right there. But you've got some very narrow windows. Now, the idea behind having these narrow windows is, one, you would like people to be able to use them offensively. So if you have an archer in there, you want them to be able to shoot out of it, but you want to take a really good shot to shoot arrows back in. Those were called arrow slits. Now, there are better examples of arrow slits in other castles, and I did not include a real great example, but that was one of the reasons you had the windows be very thin. Is you want to have windows, you don't want the thing to be completely dark, but you don't want attackers to be able to use them to, one, get inside, or two, launch weapons back into them. So here's a pretty good example on the walkway. You can see the parapet on either side of the walkway kind of acting like a guardrail, and that one is uncrenellated. We have walkways on the top like that. We call those wall walks. Whoops. Put it up here. Wall walks. Those are the walkways along the top of of walls like that, and you have a parapet that can act as a fortification or a guard on either side. So this one, Dover Castle, does show a lot of these examples pretty well. I wanted to show a picture of where Dover Castle sits, just because I think it's very, very relevant. Because this is one of the best surviving defensively fortified castles. And notice it's located right at the narrowest spot between England and France. So if in the medieval period, if France was likely to invade England, they probably wouldn't go from there, but they'd probably go from Calais and sail to land roughly there. You wouldn't want to go any further than you have to. But the idea here is that you now have this huge fortification that they've now got to go through or find a way to bypass. So that was probably the point of having Dover Castle. And on the modern maps, you can actually see there are tunnels going underneath the English Channel now as well. So that's kind of cool. It's a little easy way to get from England to France. There's some more tunnels down here as well, but anyway. Another kind of cool image of Dover Castle. I like this one just because it gives a little higher perspective. You can see the crenellations a little bit better on the top of the keep. Little harder to see. You can kind of see this wall walk here. I don't know if this wall here has a wall walk or not, but you can definitely see the wall walk along this portion of the wall. So you can clearly see that this wall is sort of that you got an outer wall and then an inner wall. So again, 2 layers of defenses to keep the invaders out. A little harder to see the other features this far away, so we'll go on to the next one. Just another angle of sort of the same thing. Again, I like the ability to see the crenellations on the top here. You can see the rampart designed a little bit better. You have another rampart out there, sort of outside the main area. But even once you breach those outer walls, you can still see it's kind of designed to have multiple ramparts in this sort of layering of the defense. It's like this wall. I don't know if it doesn't look like it has a wall walk, but it doesn't have crenellations either, so probably not a wall walk on that one. But you can kind of see there's a little wall walk right there, so defenders could walk along that area. That would probably be a slightly more secure area for the defenders. Just a ground level shot. Can clearly see the crenellations again. I liked this one because you can see revival of the Roman arch in these structures that need to be, have wide openings but still be sturdy. Roman arch is still commonly in use. You see some of that in some of the more decorative windows. But again, a lot of the post and lintel style windows here as well. We'll look at some closer pictures of that to see that. I suspect that a lot of these windows have been updated. I doubt they look like that when Dover Castle was originally built. It was built in the 11th century. I could go look up the exact date. I think it was around 1086 if I recall, but I would need to check that. In any event, I suspect the windows have been updated, but you can kind of still see the shapes were there. So you've got a basic post and lintel shape right there for that window. Same thing for these windows up here, basic post and lintel shape, also thin, so they can't be used as as access points, things like that. A little bit closer view, you can see the crenellations on top of the keep significantly better in this image. You can also see that these sort of guard towers here do not have crenellations, so not every wall was crenellated. It was, you kind of had to pick and choose where you were going to make your, concentrate your defensive forces, and you'd put crenellations there because they would allow the defenders to be more effective. So this is a view of Dover Castle from inside, and what I like here is on the inside, when you have the windows facing the inside, they're all in the doors as well. they're not as concerned about having, you can see that down a little bit down here. They're wider down there. They're not Roman arches, but they're not as concerned about making them narrow, because the attackers coming from the outside would not be able to access these windows. Once they were inside, they were inside. So you could afford to make these windows a little bit bigger. I also really like this view of the wall walk here. So, you could go up, have defenders stand here. You've got the parapet, not a huge parapet, but definitely a parapet right there, that guardrail looking thing. But no crenellations. So no crenellations on this wall. And from this side, you can kind of see the wall walk along the wall down here as well. Again, no crenellations on that lower wall though. Alrighty. So next one I wanted to talk about was Alnwick Castle. And Alnwick Castle was probably, I did not look into the history very much, but it's probably built to defend from the Scotland, the Scotsmen. So you can kind of see this is the border between England and Scotland. And Alnwick Castle was probably one of the paths that you would either use you either want to fortify as you were sending troops north, or you'd want to defend against troops coming south. Another thing I like to see on the map, and you'll be able to see this on the painting, is that there is a river on one side of the castle. This, if you could find a hill that had a river like going near it, that really does kind of protect one side, because it's very hard to make a siege across a river that way. So you have a much better idea about what direction people are going to be coming from. So here's the image, and you can again see this is a painting reproduction of Alnwick Castle. So you can see the river there, and I do like this one because there's none of the modern stuff going on, but you can see there's clearly a very tall tower there, and at the top it's probably not stone, so you're probably seeing some sort of variation on the roof truss there. You can see the crenellations on the wall here. Little bit more difficult to see the wall walk. You can again see the narrow windows facing outwards. There. That's probably not for defense, but it's probably for accessing. I would imagine there's a bell in there. We'll talk a bit more about bell towers in a future week, but yeah. So this I do like this sense of you can also see how the rampart is going up to the castle wall, so it's sort of like the earthen barrier has been stacked there to make it a little bit more defensible. Okay, so here's a closer up picture of Alnwick Castle as it looks today, and you can see over here you've got major restorations going on of this thing. So yeah, that definitely happens. But you can definitely see some of the original architecture. You got some Roman arches on this side, some Gothic pointed arches to make the more narrow windows there, as needed. You can see looks like a whole bunch of this stuff has been modified. It clearly was not made of metal when it was originally made. I suspect that this has probably been changed due to damage from over the years, from possibly from attacks, but also probably just from some wearing down of it as well. Another interesting thing to see here is that on the outside you have the narrow rectangular windows. If they're arches, they're those thin Gothic arches rather than the Roman arches you're seeing sort of on the inside of the castle as well. So yeah, it's a lot of similar features to what we saw in Dover Castle. Here's a view from Alnwick Castle, and I like this one and the next one. They're basically the same picture, but I like it because you can see kind of the way the rampart works. How if people, you could if they could go along that path, that raised elevation, but if they wanted to go up to the wall, they'd have to go down and then back up. So they can either try and take the road, which would probably be well defended, or they'd have to go get really, really low and then fight their way back uphill. And you can see that that just from the structure of what's going on there. So this is basically the same image from the same angle. You can still see the kind of rampart going down that you'd have to go up. I drew the Roman arch there. They changed the landscaping a bit so that you have some flowers here, but basically the same image that we saw before. So I like this image in particular because a couple of things. One, you've got the Roman arch there alongside the Gothic pointed arches. So when you wanted, taller, thinner arches, the Gothic arch was kind of the go-to. But when you wanted something broader for a more, a more functional opening, the Roman arch was what was used. Now, the Gothic arch is made for good arrow slit windows. The Roman arch was really good if you wanted to, have a wide path that led into the castle. The main deviation from that, and those are still fairly tall and narrow, but they're significantly bigger. Now, I suspect what this thing is the chapel of the castle, because you can see the cross there at the top. Now, another thing, this roof has since been replaced, but this tells me that when it was constructed, it probably wasn't stone. It was probably wood in order to give it in order to give it that slanted shape, and consequently, you probably had some sort of roof truss structure supporting it. So again, even though we're not seeing a lot of these, that stuff probably still did exist. So yeah, that's one of the things we're seeing. And I did say that I thought the ceiling might be stone. That's probably not true. They were probably mostly wood, but they do tend to be flat as opposed to slanted, unless it was the chapel like we're seeing there. Okay, so last one. The main reason I wanted to include this one is because you've got 2 Roman arches here, and then a whole bunch of pointed arches, and actually 3 Roman arches, and then a whole bunch of pointed ones. Now, I did want to just indicate that in the case of the Roman arches, where you're seeing the Roman arches is where the arch is going to bear significantly more weight. Now, it's not that these pointed arches don't bear any weight. They do. It's just that if you've got a real heavy structure and you need like a vault for this that it bears a lot of weight on the stone, the Roman arch seems to be much more likely to be your go-to than the Gothic arch. These are basically just holding up a wall, and they can do that. It's not like they're super fragile, but Roman arch just tended to be more structurally sound. And notice you've got large buttresses on either sides of these Roman arches as well, so you're kind of mitigating the weaknesses. Next one, the Croix de Chevalier. This is a castle from the Crusades in the Middle East, so near Israel. I believe this one is in Syria, actually. North and a bit east of Israel, north of Lebanon, west of Iraq. But rather impressive castle here, and this was very likely built when during the Crusade era, when the Europeans were invading the Middle East, trying to take back Jerusalem. So Croix de Chevalier is how you would pronounce that, and I really like this combination. One, because of the location that was picked for the castle. It's like it was picked on top of a huge hill. So it's almost like the hill itself acts as a rampart, where I don't think that this hill was artificial. I think they probably just located the castle there. But nevertheless, you've got this huge rampart, and just putting it on top of a hill makes it that much more difficult to attack. Also, some kind of cool things to note about this one. The walls are significantly higher. Your main access point is going to look to be this bridge right here, and that is pretty easily defended. You can also kind of see these crenellations that are hanging out and over. So probably these ones are, and you've got these protruding stones as well. Now, I think what these are, I forget the name of it, but I think these are probably to allow people to walk out onto the edge and then pour things onto the attackers. as well. So kind of a variation on the crenellation there. Closer view of the I believe this is probably an access bridge, although it doesn't necessarily look like there's an entrance there. Maybe there was a ladder or something I'm just missing there, but yeah, originally I thought that was an access bridge. I'm kind of questioning that now. But anyway, very classical Roman arcade style thing here when you've got to have supports. You can, again, like I was saying, you can kind of see those side jutting crenellations on the top. From the inside, you can see the sort of larger windows and doors that people were not afraid to use. One thing that you're seeing here is you're probably seeing just the remnants of the stone structure. So there are very likely wooden structures there, and we'll wait till Bodaium Castle because I think it's a better example. But think about where the wooden structures would be here. So just sort of the interior of the castle here. Just to note again, another large Roman arch, a few Roman arches for access points, and then you do have a sort of simple post and lintel to make these smaller openings as well. I like this one because of the particularly large arch. So that one, made of fairly small stones, and it's supporting a fairly decent amount of weight there as well. So that arch is doing quite a bit of work. And you'll notice, kind of giving it away now, but you'll notice this door seems to be kind of leading to nowhere. So my guess is that right around there used to be a floor. And does not look like there's any crenellations on this building. Very small parapet on this edge of the wall, but nothing that goes higher and provides a crenellation there. This one I really liked because this is a medieval use of that Roman style vault we saw, where you had multiple vaults. Like we have a vault kind of going this direction, and then a vault also going in this direction as well. And so that's called the groin vault. I don't think I gave the exact name for it, but all the weight of the vault is coming to sit on these pillars to provide a decent amount of space and ability to move in this area. It's holding up quite a lot of weight. I mean, this is kind of underneath the castle, so it's holding up quite a bit of weight there. Okay, so I did say I wanted to get to Bodaium Castle. Probably also another one of these fortifications that's designed to turn back the French should they choose to cross the English Channel. Really like this one because it's got that feature we love in medieval castles, the moat, which is just basically a water barrier that just makes the castle that much more difficult to assault. Doesn't even need to be very deep. I mean, if it's over their head, it's very difficult to assault anyway. But even if it was only like waist height, it would still be difficult to fight through that much water and attack a castle like this. So a lot of times you'll instead of seeing a rampart with a wall, you might see a moat instead. Sometimes both, even, but that's it's an alternate fortification. See the narrow windows, all up and down. Probably some arrow slits right there for attacking. Parapet with crenellations at the top. More narrow windows. Another tower with parapets and crenellations. It's interesting, crenellations here. You don't have crenellations everywhere, so maybe they're only crenellating the areas where they expect to be attacked from. So front view of the moat, and again a significantly larger arch to allow people in. You can kind of see the gate that can be put up or down. But basically, if this is your only way to access the moat, then basically you're either forcing your opponent to attack across the moat, or you're going to expect them to come from this direction. Now notice all the towers, all the walls, on this side are crenellated. So the whole idea is that, yep, if we're only going to give one path across the moat, this is the direction we expect them to come from, so we're going to be ready to attack from that direction. So the defensive fortifications seem a bit more intense there. The inside I particularly like. Clearly the ground has kind of been renovated, but I do like to see the sort of intricacies of the stonework inside. A lot of the stonework has been knocked over. Really, the walls were kind of the longest lasting piece of this castle. A lot of the interior architecture is gone, but we can kind of see where there used to be a floor there. There used to be 2 floors there, and we've got a fireplace and a couple other fireplaces there. Doors on each level. So there was clearly something there. Probably these floors were made of wood. That's probably why they haven't survived. And having the floors maybe made of stone would just be too heavy. You'd need too many supports to keep them elevated like that. So multiple stories, likely made out of wood, wooden timbers, wooden posts and lintels. You can see these interior walls just kind of crumbled away. They're not meant to last as long as the exterior defensive walls. So, interesting thing to notice there. You can definitely see a hint of the Roman arch in both these doors and in the fireplaces. But also on the wall walk up there, more narrow entrance, the post and lintel. This window right here, Gothic arch. So, combination of forms. Another view of the inside. I can see again where the floor was. Fireplace, fireplace, door, 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 fireplace, fireplace. And then, the longer lasting crenellated towers that, were again built for more defensive purposes. And last one, kind of gone over this, but you can get a better sense of where the floor was. There are fireplaces on each floor, things like that. And then windows looking out with the pointed arches there. Okay, so that is it for the castles. Hope you enjoyed this presentation and discussion. Go ahead, go back, revisit your questions, fill in the definitions of those terms, and then go ahead and do the observations on the cathedrals. I'll see you next time.